Jin-woo adjusted his worn jacket one final time before entering the coffee shop. The fabric felt foreign against his skin, accustomed as he was to designer suits and silk ties. At 29, he commanded a business empire worth billions. Yet here he sat, pretending to be a struggling office worker, earning barely enough to survive. His assistant had arranged another blind date, the 7th, this month. Each previous encounter had ended the same way. Women fleeing once they discovered his modest facade. They expected luxury cars, expensive restaurants, and designer gifts. When presented with subway rides and budget meals, their interest vanished faster than morning mist. The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon conversations, the aroma of freshly ground beans mixing with the gentle hum of laptops and whispered discussions. Jin-woo chose a corner table, positioning himself to observe the entrance while remaining inconspicuous among the other patrons. His phone displayed a photo of today's date. Park So-young, 26, working as a kindergarten teacher. Her smile seemed genuine in the picture, unlike the calculated expressions he had grown accustomed to in his social circle. Something about her eyes suggested warmth, a quality that had become increasingly rare in his world of corporate mergers and strategic alliances. The plan was simple, yet cruel. He would maintain his poor persona throughout their meeting, expecting her to lose interest and leave. Then he could return to his penthouse apartment, convinced once again that genuine love was impossible for someone of his wealth and status. The game had become routine, a bitter confirmation of his deepest fears about human nature and the corrupting power of money and relationships. So-young arrived 15 minutes early, clutching a small bouquet of wildflowers picked from her apartment's rooftop garden. Her sundress was simple but clean, her shoes worn but polished with care. She scanned the coffee shop nervously before spotting Jin-woo's tentative wave from the corner table. Her smile could have illuminated the entire establishment. She approached with genuine enthusiasm, extending the flowers toward him with both hands in the traditional Korean manner of respectful offering. "These are beautiful, thank you," Jin-woo said, genuinely surprised by the gesture. Most of his previous dates had expected him to bring expensive gifts, not the reverse. So-young settled into the chair across from him, declining his offer to buy her an expensive coffee drink. Instead, she ordered the cheapest item on the menu, a simple green tea. Her consideration for his supposed financial limitations touched something deep within his chest, a sensation he had almost forgotten existed. "I hope you don't mind meeting somewhere so ordinary," he said, testing her reaction to his carefully constructed poverty narrative. "Ordinary places often hold the most extraordinary conversations," she replied, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. "I'd rather talk with someone genuine in a coffee shop than pretend to be impressed in a fancy restaurant." Her words struck him like lightning. Here was a woman who seemed to value authenticity over material display, connection over status symbols. Jin-woo found himself genuinely curious about her thoughts, her dreams, her perspective on life beyond the superficial concerns that dominated his usual social interactions. For the first time in months, he forgot about his deception and simply enjoyed being present with another person. Their conversation flowed like water, finding its natural course. So-young spoke passionately about her kindergarten students, describing their innocent wisdom and boundless creativity with the devotion of someone who had discovered her true calling. Her hands danced as she talked, painting vivid pictures of classroom adventures and small victories. "Money can't buy the moment when a shy child finally speaks up in class," she said, unaware of how her words resonated with Jin-woo's hidden reality. "Those are the treasures that matter most." Jin-woo found himself sharing stories from his supposed office job, carefully weaving truth with fiction. He described the stress of demanding supervisors, the frustration of corporate politics, the exhaustion of working late nights, all experiences he genuinely knew, though from a vastly different perspective. "It sounds difficult," So Young said with genuine empathy, "but you seem like someone who finds meaning in his work, despite the challenges." Her ability to see positive qualities in his fabricated struggles amazed him. Most people in his real life focus solely on his successes and wealth, rarely acknowledging the personal costs of his achievements or the loneliness that accompanied his position. As the afternoon progressed, Jin-woo realized he was experiencing something unprecedented, being appreciated for his character rather than his bank account. So Young laughed at his jokes because she found them genuinely funny, not because he could afford to take her to exclusive venues. When she excused herself to the restroom, Jin-woo stared at the wildflowers on the table. Their simple beauty seemed to mock the elaborate floral arrangements that typically adorned his office and penthouse. These humble blooms, given freely and without expectation, meant more than any expensive bouquet he had ever received. Evening approached as their coffee cups emptied and refilled multiple times. So Young glanced at her modest watch, a gift from her late grandmother, and sighed softly. "I should probably head home soon. Tomorrow's Monday, and my little ones will be full of weekend stories to share." Jin-woo felt an unexpected reluctance to end their time together. The afternoon had passed like minutes rather than hours, filled with genuine laughter and meaningful conversation. He couldn't remember the last time he had enjoyed someone's company so thoroughly, without the complicated dynamics that wealth and power introduce to every interaction. "Could I walk you to the subway station?" he offered, maintaining his modest persona. So Young's face lit up with pleasure at the simple gesture. "I'd like that very much." They strolled through the evening streets, discussing everything from childhood dreams to favorite books. So, Young revealed her hope to one day open a small learning center for underprivileged children, a dream that seemed both ambitious and impossibly pure to Jin-woo's cynical businessman's mind. "It might take years to save enough money," she admitted, "but some dreams are worth the wait." Her words stabbed at his conscience. With a single phone call, he could make her dream a reality overnight. His wealth could transform her life in ways she couldn't imagine, yet he continued the charade that kept them in separate worlds. At the subway entrance, So Young turned to face him. "I had a wonderful time today, Jin-woo. You're different from other people I've met." "Different how?" he asked, genuinely curious about her perception. "You listen more than you talk. You ask questions because you care about the answers, not to fill silence." Her insight unsettled him, suggesting a depth of understanding that made his deception feel increasingly cruel. Their second date occurred a week later at a small neighborhood restaurant that So Young had suggested. The establishment was humble, with mismatched chairs and handwritten menus, but the food was prepared with love and served with genuine warmth by the elderly owner. So Young insisted on splitting the bill, despite Jin-woo's protests. "We're both working hard for our money," she said firmly. "It's only fair." Her insistence on equality in their modest relationship struck Jin-woo profoundly. In his usual world, people either expected him to pay for everything or tried to demonstrate their own wealth through lavish gestures. So Young's approach suggested a partnership built on mutual respect rather than financial hierarchy. During dinner, she shared stories from her childhood, growing up with a single mother who worked multiple jobs to support them, learning to find joy in simple pleasures, developing a deep appreciation for people who showed kindness without expecting anything in return. "My mother always said that a person's character shows most clearly when they think no one important is watching," So Young reflected. "I try to remember that in all my relationships." Jin-woo nearly choked on his food. Her words seemed directed at his very soul, challenging the fundamental premise of his deception. Here was a woman evaluating his character based on how he treated her as an supposedly ordinary person, not as the CEO of a major corporation. After dinner, they walked through a nearby park where couples sat on benches sharing quiet conversations. The evening air was cool and sweet, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and the distant sound of children playing. "Thank you for another lovely evening," So-young said as they approached her modest apartment building. Jin-woo looked up at the simple structure, knowing he could purchase the entire building without affecting his monthly budget, yet feeling humbled by her contentment with her circumstances. Jin-woo's carefully constructed persona began showing strain during their third meeting. They had planned to attend a free outdoor concert, but rain forced them to seek shelter in a nearby bookstore. So-young browsed the children's section, selecting educational books for her classroom while carefully checking prices. Jin-woo watched her mental calculations, knowing she was balancing her desire to provide for her students against her limited budget. When she reluctantly returned several books to the shelf, Jin-woo felt an overwhelming urge to buy them all for her. His hand moved instinctively toward his wallet, where platinum credit cards waited to solve any financial concern instantly. "Find something interesting?" So-young asked, noticing his distraction. "Just thinking about how difficult it must be to want things you can't afford," he replied, the truth slipping out despite his careful control. "It's not so bad," she said with a philosophical smile. "Wanting teaches us to appreciate what we have. Besides, happiness isn't about having everything you desire, it's about desiring what you already have." Her wisdom struck him like a physical blow. Here was a woman who had achieved something his wealth had never bought him, genuine contentment. She possessed a richness of spirit that made his material abundance seem hollow by comparison. Later, as they shared an umbrella walking to her apartment, Jin-woo found himself studying her profile in the streetlight. Her face showed no trace of dissatisfaction with their modest circumstances, no longing for luxury or status symbols. She seemed perfectly happy walking in the rain with a man she believed had little to offer beyond his company and conversation. The realization terrified him. He was falling in love with someone who knew nothing about his true identity. Jin-woo's double life began taking its toll. At work, his assistant noticed his distraction during important meetings. His usually sharp business instincts seemed dulled by preoccupation with a kindergarten teacher who had no idea she was dating one of South Korea's most powerful men. "Sir, the investors are waiting for your decision on the merger," his assistant reminded him during a particularly unfocused afternoon. Jin-woo stared at the contracts spread across his mahogany desk, each document representing millions of dollars in transactions. The numbers that once excited him now seemed abstract, meaningless compared to the simple joy he felt when So-young laughed at his jokes or shared her dreams for her students' futures. He had built his fortune through careful analysis, strategic thinking, and calculated risks. Yet his relationship with So-young defied all logic. Every moment they spent together deepened his deception while intensifying his genuine feelings for her. That evening, he stood on his penthouse balcony overlooking the city lights. The view stretched for miles, encompassing neighborhoods where ordinary people lived ordinary lives. Somewhere among those lights was So-young's modest apartment, where she was probably preparing lessons for tomorrow's kindergarten class. His phone buzzed with messages from potential romantic interests, women from his social circle who knew his wealth and status. Their carefully worded invitations to exclusive events and expensive restaurants felt hollow compared to So-young's simple text asking about his day at work. Jin-woo realized he was trapped in a prison of his own making. Revealing the truth risked losing her forever, but continuing the lie made every shared moment feel stolen and false. He had never faced a decision where his heart and his mind reached such different conclusions. The weight of his deception pressed down on him like a physical burden he could no longer bear. Their relationship reached a turning point during a weekend trip to So Young's hometown, a small coastal village where her mother still lived. Jin-woo had never experienced such a simple, unpretentious environment where success was measured by community contribution rather than financial achievement. So Young's mother welcomed him with the warmth reserved for family, serving homemade meals and sharing stories from her daughter's childhood. The modest home overflowed with love, laughter, and genuine hospitality that no amount of money could purchase. "So Young talks about you constantly," her mother confided while they prepared dinner together. "I haven't seen her this happy since she was a child." Jin-woo's guilt intensified as he watched So Young help her neighbors with small tasks, refusing any offers of payment. She fixed an elderly man's broken fence, taught children to plant flowers, and listened patiently to anyone who needed someone to hear their concerns. "She's always been like this," her mother explained. "Even as a little girl, she gave away half her lunch to classmates who had less. I used to worry she was too generous for this world." That evening, Jin-woo and So Young walked along the moonlit beach where she had played as a child. The sound of waves against the shore created a peaceful backdrop for their conversation about dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. "I know this might sound naive," So Young said, "but I believe that love is the only thing that really matters. Not money, not status, not what other people think. Just the connection between two people who genuinely care about each other." Her words shattered the last of his resistance. Jin-woo knew he had to tell her the truth, regardless of the consequences. She deserved honesty from the man she was beginning to love, even if that honesty destroyed everything beautiful they had built together. Jin-woo spent sleepless nights planning how to reveal his true identity. Every imagined conversation ended in disaster, with So Young feeling betrayed and manipulated. He had deceived someone whose entire value system was built on honesty and authenticity. The moment came unexpectedly during what was supposed to be a casual lunch date. So Young arrived at their usual coffee shop with tears in her eyes, clutching a letter from her school's administration. "They're closing the kindergarten," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Budget cuts. All the teachers are being let go at the end of the month." Jin-woo's heart shattered watching her pain. Her dreams of helping children, her passion for education, her entire career was crumbling because of financial decisions made by people who had never seen her classroom magic. "There must be something that can be done," he said desperately. "The parents are trying to raise money, but it's not enough. We'd need hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep operating independently." She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I'm sorry. I know you have your own financial worries. I shouldn't burden you with mine." Jin-woo stared at the woman he loved, knowing he could solve her problem with a single phone call. His wealth could save her school, secure her future, and restore her happiness. Yet revealing this would expose the elaborate lie that had defined their entire relationship. "So Young," he began, his voice trembling with the weight of what he was about to confess. "There's something I need to tell you about who I really am." She looked up at him with eyes full of trust and vulnerability, having no idea that her world was about to change forever. Jin-woo took a deep breath, knowing that the next few minutes would determine whether love could survive the foundation of deception upon which it had been built. "I'm not who you think I am," Jin-woo said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not a struggling office worker. I'm Lee Jin-woo, CEO of JW Group." So Young stared at him in confusion, not immediately comprehending the magnitude of his revelation. JW Group was one of South Korea's largest conglomerates, a name synonymous with immense wealth and corporate power. "I don't understand," she said slowly. searching his face for signs that this was some kind of cruel joke. Jin-woo pulled out his real phone, showing her news articles featuring his photo at corporate events, business magazines with his face on the cover, social media posts from exclusive gatherings he had attended. The evidence was undeniable and overwhelming. So Young's face went through a series of emotions: confusion, realization, hurt, and finally, a deep betrayal that seemed to drain all color from her cheeks. "You lied to me," she said, her voice growing stronger as the full impact hit her. "Everything we've shared, every conversation, every moment, it was all based on a lie. My feelings for you are real," Jin-woo pleaded. "Everything I've felt, everything we've experienced together, that was genuine. How can I believe anything you say?" So Young stood up, her hands shaking. "You've been pretending to be poor while I worried about splitting dinner bills. You've watched me stress about money while you could have solved every problem I've ever had." Other cafe patrons began staring as her voice rose, but she no longer cared about causing a scene. The man she had fallen in love with had never existed. "I wanted to know if someone could love me for myself, not my money," Jin-woo said desperately. "But you never gave me that chance." So Young's eyes filled with tears of anger and heartbreak. "You decided I was too shallow to handle the truth before you even knew me. You made me an experiment in your little game." She gathered her purse and stood to leave, pausing only to look back at him one final time. "I could have saved my school with your help, but that was never really an option, was it? Because you were too busy playing pretend to trust me with reality." So Young disappeared from Jin-woo's life, completely. She blocked his phone number, refused to see him when he appeared at her apartment, and declined to respond to the letters and flowers he sent daily. The kindergarten closed as scheduled, and she took a temporary position at a school across the city. Jin-woo threw himself into his business with renewed intensity, trying to bury his heartbreak in corporate acquisitions and strategic planning. Yet success had lost its meaning. Board meetings felt pointless, profit margins seemed abstract, and his penthouse apartment became a luxurious prison where he contemplated his mistakes. His assistant noticed the change immediately. "Sir, perhaps you should take a vacation. You haven't seemed yourself lately." "I'm fine," Jin-woo replied automatically, though he couldn't remember the last time he had slept through the night or enjoyed a meal. Weeks passed without any word from So Young. Jin-woo hired private investigators to ensure her safety and well-being, learning that she was struggling financially since the kindergarten's closure, but refusing to accept help from anyone who knew about their connection. The investigators reported that she had been seen visiting her mother more frequently, spending long walks on the beach where they had shared their most honest conversation. She looked thinner, sadder, but was maintaining her dignity and independence despite the emotional and financial turmoil. Jin-woo realized that his deception had not only cost him the love of his life, but had also robbed So Young of opportunities to achieve her dreams. His selfish need to test her love had resulted in genuine harm to someone who had never deserved such treatment. The weight of his actions pressed down on him more heavily each day. He had everything money could buy, but had lost the only thing that truly mattered: the love and trust of a woman who had seen goodness in him when he was pretending to have nothing. 2 months after their painful separation, Jin-woo encountered So Young at the most unlikely place, a charity gala for underprivileged children that his company was sponsoring. She was there as a volunteer, helping coordinate activities for the young guests, her face lighting up as she interacted with the children despite her own recent hardships. Jin-woo watched from across the elegantly decorated ballroom as she led a group of children in singing, her natural warmth and enthusiasm unchanged, despite everything she had endured. She wore a simple dress that he recognized from their early dates, elegant in its modesty among the designer gowns surrounding her. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and time seemed to freeze. So-young's expression showed surprise, pain, and something else, perhaps curiosity about seeing him in his natural environment for the first time. She excused herself from the children and walked toward him with determined steps, her chin raised with the dignity that had first attracted him to her. "So this is your real world," she said quietly, gesturing at the opulent surroundings and expensively dressed guests. "Yes," Jin-woo replied simply, not attempting to justify or explain. "You look like you belong here," she observed, noting how naturally he moved among the wealthy and powerful attendees who sought his attention and approval. "I thought I did," he said, "but I've learned that belonging somewhere and being happy, there are very different things." So-young studied his face, seeing something in his expression that hadn't been there during their coffee shop meetings. A weariness, a loneliness that wealth and success couldn't mask. "The children love what you've done for this event," she said, her teacher's instincts recognizing genuine good despite her personal hurt. "It's not enough," Jin-woo replied. "Nothing I do feels like enough anymore." For a moment they stood in silence, surrounded by luxury, but separated by the chasm his deception had created between them. As the charity gala continued around them, So-young and Jin-woo found themselves drawn into a tentative conversation that felt both familiar and completely different from their previous interactions. "I've been thinking about what you said," So-young admitted, her voice softer than it had been during their last painful encounter. "About wanting someone to love you for yourself." Jin-woo listened intently, afraid to hope but unable to stop himself from hanging on her every word. "I understand the fear," she continued, "but love isn't a test, Jin-woo. It's not something you trick someone into or manipulate them toward. Real love grows from truth, even when that truth is complicated or difficult." "I know that now," he said quietly. "I know that I hurt you, and I know that my fear cost us both something precious." So-young looked around the ballroom, taking in the elaborate decorations, the expensive artwork, the casual display of wealth that represented Jin-woo's everyday reality. "I used to think that poor and rich were the only two categories that mattered," she said. "But spending time in this world tonight, I realize that you're neither poor nor rich in the ways that truly count. You're just human, with the same needs for connection and understanding as everyone else." Jin-woo felt tears threatening to break through his carefully maintained composure. "I would give up everything I have to earn your forgiveness." "That's not what I want from you," So-young replied firmly. "I don't want you to be poor, and I never needed you to pretend to be something you're not. I just wanted you to trust me with the truth of who you are." She watched the children playing across the room, their laughter echoing through the elegant space. "These children don't care about money or status. They just want someone to see them, to value them, to believe in their worth. That's what we all want, isn't it?" Jin-woo nodded, understanding for the first time that his wealth had been a barrier he had built around himself, not something that naturally separated him from others. 6 months later, Jin-woo stood in front of a modest building in So-young's old neighborhood, watching construction workers install a sign that read, "Tomorrow's Promise Learning Center." The facility would serve underprivileged children, offering education, meals, and hope to families who needed support. So-young emerged from the building, clipboard in hand, directing the placement of playground equipment with the same passionate attention to detail she had once brought to her kindergarten classroom. She had been working tirelessly to prepare for the center's opening, and her efforts showed in every carefully planned detail. "The reading corner looks perfect," Jin-woo observed, noting the cozy arrangement of books and soft cushions visible through the large windows. "The children are going to love it," So-young agreed, her face glowing with satisfaction and purpose. Their relationship had been rebuilt slowly, carefully, on a foundation of complete honesty. Jin-woo had learned to share his real world with her. The pressures of leadership, the loneliness of wealth, the responsibility he felt for his employees and their families. So Young had learned to see him as a complete person, complex and flawed, but genuinely trying to use his advantages for good. "I have something for you," Jin-woo said, pulling a small wrapped package from his jacket pocket. So Young opened it to find a simple necklace with a pendant shaped like a tiny book, handmade by one of the children from her old kindergarten class, who had somehow tracked down her new address. "It's from Min-jun," Jin-woo explained. He wanted to thank his favorite teacher for never giving up on him. So Young's eyes filled with tears as she recognized the careful craftsmanship of small hands working to express love and gratitude. "He's enrolled here for our after-school program," she said softly, along with 12 other children from the old school. Jin-woo fastened the necklace around her neck, his hands gentle and sure. Some dreams are worth waiting for, but some dreams are worth making happen right now. So Young turned in his arms, seeing in his eyes the same warmth and sincerity that had first attracted her, now enhanced by complete honesty and mutual trust. "I love you," she said simply. "All of you, the successful businessman, the caring philanthropist, and the man who was brave enough to trust me with the truth." "I love you too," Jin-woo replied, knowing that he had finally learned the difference between being valued for what he had and being loved for who he was. Outside, children's laughter echoed from the playground, a sound that would soon fill their lives with joy, purpose, and the kind of wealth that could never be measured in dollars but enriched every moment with meaning. Their love story had begun with deception, but had transformed into something built on truth, trust, and a shared commitment to making the world a little brighter for those who needed it most.